Coming up on Oakdale Update, we'll talk with Washington County Administrator Molly O'Rourke. We'll see highlights from a recent community picnic, and we'll let you know about events happening in the city this summer. Stay tuned. Oakdale Update is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to Oakdale Update. I'm your host, Frank Orsello. This is the City of Oakdale's news and information program about your community. Molly O'Rourke was promoted to the position of Washington County Administrator in 2012. She was the Deputy County Administrator for 10 years before that. She's here with me now in the studio today. Molly, thanks for joining us on Oakdale Update.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
No problem. All right, let's start out with tell me a little bit about yourself, your background and that sort of thing.
Well, I was born and raised in Duluth, Minnesota, and I went to school at UMD, got a degree in social work, and then I moved down to the Twin Cities after that, and eventually got a degree with a master's in public administration from Hamline University.
Okay. Did you like that sort of thing? Is that why you got into it? Or could you see good things happening there?
You know, actually, I started out working in nonprofits and working with individuals. My first job down here was running a food shelf, but I wanted to actually work in an organization where I could have more impact than just the one-on-one.
Okay. Now, as Deputy Administrator, you were that for 10 years.
Correct.
And how did you get promoted to where you're at now? Is this an application situation or what?
It is an application process. So the county board appoints the county administrator, and so they did a formal application process. There were actually 3 people in the organization that vied for the position, and I went through the interviewing process, answering written questions, and was selected.
So when you say the county board, we're talking about the county commissioners, is that correct?
That is right.
Okay, so all right, now my understanding is you're in charge of everybody except the sheriff's office and what was the other one?
The attorney's office.
Attorney's office, okay.
Yes.
And why is that?
Both of those positions are elected positions, so they report directly to the electorate. I have some role in recommending their budget to the county board, and the county board has a role in setting their salary, but other than that, they do respond directly to the people that elected them.
But I'm sure you work with them, don't you?
Very closely, and Sheriff Hutton and Attorney Orpett are really wonderful people to work with, very much team players.
I've known those people forever, and they're just great, aren't they? Just wonderful people.
Yeah.
They're so dedicated to what they do.
Yes.
I mean, both of them. Pete, oh God, get him going on a subject. I've had him several times here, and he's quite the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go to what is your actual job description?
Well, I'm really operate like in a private sector, a CEO reporting to a board of directors. So that's how we see the county commissioners. Our job is to pull together information for them so that they can have good analysis, good data, make policy recommendations, and then my job is to implement that throughout the organization and then evaluate it and report back to the county board on how well we're doing.
So how do you do that? How often do you report back to them?
The county board meets the first 4 Tuesdays of every month in the morning.
First 4, what did you say, first?
First 4 Tuesdays,
Okay.
So we do not meet on the 5th Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
And so really, I'm reporting every week on a variety of issues that we need to get their direction or approval on.
So you sit in on all their meetings, is that correct?
That is correct.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a large organization. We have over 1,200 employees in the organization.
Oh, you say organization, you mean the county workers?
The county.
County
Correct.
workers, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we provide services that range from criminal justice on the one side, like We fund some courts activities, community corrections, otherwise known as probation. We do all the safety net services, economic support, food support, housing assistance kind of activities, working with people that have mental health issues or developmental disabilities. And then we also do public works, so we do the roads, surveying, parks, libraries, and then we have all the internal supports, the property records for when you purchase or sell a home. We run elections, do the technology, accounting functions, and human resource functions for the
Okay, so that's about
organization.
1,200 people in that field.
Correct.
How many of those, then they must have bosses or supervisors that report to you. How many of those?
Right. I have 12 department heads that report directly to me. So the county board hires me or could fire me, and then I go about hiring the department heads. And then from there, they have supervisors and move throughout the organization to the frontline employees.
So these supervisors, you go, you interview them and you
The department heads, yes.
department heads?
Yes.
How do they approach, do they apply for that position? Are they workers and then they apply for that position, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a recent example is Dan Pappen, our Community Services Director, just announced his retirement. He'll be gone in October. And so now what we'll do is we'll take his job description and we'll develop some questions about it, and then we'll start advertising it out on the web, but also through local organizations where you would expect to find a community services director. We'll give people time to send in their resume and answer the questions. We'll start evaluating those questions to make sure that they meet, say, the minimum qualifications required for the job. And then we'll do interviews with them, and we'll have managers that do interviews. We'll also have some frontline and midline employees as part of the interviewing process.
So they kind of work their way up and then eventually they get to you, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So are these jobs open to the outside, to some guy from St. Cloud that wants to apply for it?
Yes. I mean, they'd have to meet the minimum qualifications, and so, as long as they meet the minimums, yeah, we would consider them as part of the process.
Okay. Do you get a pretty good batch of people? I mean, are you ever short of applicants?
It kind of varies with the economy. So when the economy is doing well, we tend to have fewer applicants. When the economy is not doing as well, we tend to have more applicants. There's a bit more stability in government jobs, and so sometimes that appeals to people. Right now we're doing really well. We just advertised a communications specialist position in Public Works, and we got 93 applications.
Wow.
So that's really, really good.
That is great.
I also hope that it's a sign that our organization has a good reputation and people want to work for us. So, we want to be an employer of choice and make sure that we're getting the best and the brightest to provide service to our citizens.
Well, generally we don't hear any bad things about Washington County. I mean, they seem to be.
That's good.
They're pretty good. Yeah, you get good press. I was going to ask you. You and we talked before about union people. Now, do you help negotiate the contracts? Do you go that high?
Correct. We are a highly unionized environment. There's some people like the department heads who are not in a union, but I would say probably 70% or higher of our workforce is in unions.
So do you negotiate contracts?
We do. So we will.
Now, who's we?
The Human Resources Director and myself and some of her staff will pull together information for the county board. What have been the settlements within other communities? What would be the cost if we did similar settlements? We'll present that to the board. We'll get their direction as to what we're able to offer. And then I, along with the Human Resources Director and some other staff, will go and bargain each of the contracts.
The commissioners, county commissioners, that's a elected position, is it not?
It is elected position.
It's elected. So those people have a lot to do too, don't they? I mean, they're kind of leading the charge for you so that you know where you're at,
Yes,
right?
Yes, they
Isn't
are.
that right?
It's a full-time job. In addition to coming every Tuesday, they also represent us on a variety of other organizations. I would say each commissioner has about 12 to 18 different assignments, sometimes more, sometimes less. But we have great
You
people.
mean that'd be like committee meetings, committees, and that kind
Right,
of
like
things?
there's the Metropolitan Mosquito Control or the county's Transit Improvement Board, these other organizations that they represent us on, and they do a fine job there. And then they also bring that information back to the organization.
They're very professional people, I would assume, right? I mean, they got to be on top of this.
They are, and actually we had one of the best county commissioners we sadly lost this past winter, and that's actually Oakdale's commissioner. Ted Berth had
Ted
been
Berth,
on,
yep.
and he had done a wonderful job. I mean, he was compassionate, he was knowledgeable, he had a wisdom about him and a common sense that really helped us as an organization, and we have greatly missed his service.
So, speaking of that, now what's the next, how do you replace the commissioners if something like that happens?
You know, it depends on what time the opening is. Because Ted was at the beginning of his term, what we have to do is have a special election to fill out the remainder of his term.
Would that be a primary too?
There will be a primary, so we've had 6 people file for the position. The primary will be Tuesday, August 9th, and then the general election, which will be the 2 top vote getters from the primary, will be Tuesday, November 8th. And then as soon as the results of the election have been certified, that person will take office. So they'll actually be on our board by about the end of November, instead of waiting till, you know, new people that might be running would come on in January.
Well, whoever gets it, they got big shoes to fill, don't they?
They have very big shoes to fill. Yes, we miss Ted greatly, and we just so appreciate the Oakdale community and the other communities in District 2 sending him to us for as long as they did.
I knew Ted back 40 years ago, and he's always been that way. He's always been a wonderful person. That's the only way you can describe him.
That is
wonderful
so true.
person.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get back to your job here.
Okay.
How many staff members do you have? How many staff do you have? I mean, this is a lot of work you're doing, and how do you?
Yeah, I have an Office of Administration, and that provides support to the county commissioners and to myself. It's about a dozen people in the office, and so some of them would be administrative people, some would be people who are planners. You know, we do a lot with performance measurement because we want to make sure that we use taxpayers' dollars wisely, and we can show people the outcomes that they're getting for the money that they let us use.
So how many people do you have that answer to you?
It's about a dozen that would answer to me.
In the immediate office, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would that be like somebody from taxation or somebody, or just?
The department heads do report to me.
Yes.
I also have a deputy administrator, so some of the department heads report to him, the property records one being one of those.
Okay.
So we split that, and then the internal staff to the Office of Administration.
Okay. Washington County, it's a huge county.
Yes, it
Can you
is.
give us the boundaries?
Yes, well, and let me start out by saying it is the 5th smallest in terms of geography.
It is.
But it's the 5th largest in terms of population. We are long and narrow, so we run from Forest Lake on the north all the way down to having a bit of Hastings on the south end. We are bordered on the south by the Mississippi River and along the east by the St. Croix River. And then, of course, on the west, it's Century Avenue or County Road 120, depending on where you live.
That's huge.
Yes.
I mean, it is huge.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell me this. Okay, because it's such a large area that you are in charge of, if things are happening up in Forest Lake and things are happening in Cottage Grove, I mean, how do you handle all that? Does a telephone call take care of it, or, you know, to bring the problem to you, so let's say there's a problem?
Well, that's why we have so many staff in the organization to cover it. We operate out of almost 20 different locations when you consider service centers and our public workshops, our libraries, and our parks. And so it tends to funnel from the frontline staff that are interacting with people. You know, they'll share the information about this service is going well, this service isn't, and we'll start working it up the organization, sharing that eventually with county commissioners, and then talking about how do we respond to that.
So the commissioners, they each have a district, isn't that right? I think, what is it, 9 districts? Or what?
There's actually 5 commissioner
districts.
districts, and
Okay.
so right now we're running with only 4 commissioners with the absence of Commissioner Berth.
Okay, so if something happened up in the Forest Lake, that commissioner would bring the problem to the board, then, is that correct?
Yeah, if staff haven't brought it forward, then that commissioner would bring it forward. Sometimes staff are alerting us, and then we'll call up the commissioner up there and let them know. And we're trying to provide an equal level of service across the community, but we also know there's differences. So if there's an area that has more young people, we might have different library programs for them than if we're in a part of the community that might be an older community. So we try to have consistency, but we also try to respond to those special needs.
So somebody, or say the library system way up north would be different than the one obviously in the immediate area here, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We try to look at the population and the demands from those areas.
So you mentioned before the criminal justice system and the libraries and service centers. What are the service centers? What exactly are they?
What we've done is we have grown so large over time that we've not been able to provide all the services within the county seat, which is Stillwater. We also know that we have some transportation issues in the community, and so we're trying to get the services closer to home. So we've opened up a service center up in Forest Lake.
Oh.
We have one in Cottage Grove, and we have another one in Woodbury, and that's then in addition to the libraries and the parks that we operate.
Good. That is very good. You have to do that because it's so large. It's large. Okay, so listen. How do you set your budget? How does your I'm assuming each department comes to you, and give me a rundown on that.
So we start out by looking at how did we do in the budget for the last year. Where were there surpluses? Where were we maybe overspending? We'll talk to the commissioners about what we see as potential revenue coming in. So the county budget is, in the past, it was supposed to be a third of the money from state and federal sources, a third of the money from property tax, and a third from fees. Over time, the state and federal money has been reduced, and so about half of the budget now is property tax levy. And so because that's coming from our local taxpayers, we want to make sure that the commissioners are comfortable with how much money we're raising and how that's spent. So we'll first meet with the commissioners and say, here's what we think the needs are. We'll get some direction from them as to where they think that we should come in as a property tax amount. And then all the departments will work and look at what their needs are and the priorities. They'll present what they want from their departments to me, and then I and the Office of Administration will review it all, make recommendations to the county board. Then the county board has a public presentation from each of the departments about what's in their budget, and then they have to set a preliminary levy in September and do final budget approval and levy approval in December.
So they're the people that will raise my property taxes, is that correct?
Yes, they
Or
will.
not.
Yes,
Or not.
or not.
It's a no-win situation, I'm sure, and I know you people, I think you try pretty hard to keep it level at least, or...
We do very well, and actually when we had the Great Recession, we had several years of no property tax increase, so we've tried to balance it, but clearly there are needs as a growing community. We're about 250,000 people right now within Washington County. Those people expect services and we need to provide it.
I understand. Even though I'm upset with my property tax, but everybody is. It doesn't matter what they be, everybody's upset with them. But now, you did mention before about our rating. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so when you sell bonds, which is like going out to take a mortgage for your house, you have to get rated, and the two major rating agencies are Standard & Poor's and Moody's. And they look not only at your financial health, but your managerial health, your leadership, and both of those agencies have given us the highest ratings possible. So with Moody's, they only give about 80 of these out to counties, and yet there are over 3,000 counties in the country. So we're clearly in the top 3 to 4% of all counties on these ratings, and the same for Standard & Poor's. So
that is wonderful.
it is a sign that your money is being very well managed.
That's right. So I want to mention some infrastructure projects. The Gateway, the bus rapid transit. How's that going? I mean,
it is moving
We ran into a
forward.
little roadblock in our friends to the east, the Lake Elmo people.
True, but we have actually been working very closely with Oakdale. We've had 12 community meetings in Oakdale, and we're working closely with Woodbury to look at something that would go there. And we actually started working on this because of a residential survey that we do. Every 2 to 3 years we do a residential survey, and back in 2013, the biggest concern that came from that survey was the lack of public transportation. Sure. That was reflected again in the 2015 information survey. So we're working directly in response to what those citizens are saying. They need better public transportation. And the bus rapid transit is a dedicated busway line. I mean, it's a bus on wheels. It's just on a dedicated roadway so that it can go faster than some of the rest of the traffic.
Okay, so let's go to Lake Elmo. They don't want it, so how are you going to work around that or bypass them, or how would you work that?
What they're doing is right now looking at what the route should be in Oakdale. Once they finish that, and we're hoping that that will be identified in August, then they'll start looking at what point do they turn south and go into Woodbury. So you'll be seeing those options really in the next couple of months.
Okay, so let's see. In November, we're getting new elections, and let's assume that the administration changes in Lake Elmo. Is there a chance for them to jump on board at the end there? Or?
Certainly the original line still is part of the overall study. There's lots of rules for the federal government that needs to keep those prior lines or routes in consideration, but we're also now looking at some additional routes that will be coming out in August and September.
Okay. Now that project, if it does proceed and it finishes up, it's going to be probably 3-4 years down the road at least, isn't it?
Oh yes, we don't expect actually the buses to run until 2023. So it does take a long time. You know, and even road projects take a long time. We're redoing Ideal Avenue from Old County Road, County Highway 5, now County Road 14 up to 50th. Yes. And we've been in the plan on that for a couple of years, and it won't be until 2017 that we start the construction.
I drive that every day. And it's a beautiful road, except it's a mess. And,
yes, it is.
And I've attended a couple meetings so far to see how we're doing on it. And oh, absolutely. And they want my input, and I'm giving it to them. So yeah, but it's. In fact, I interviewed the supervisor. I don't remember his name.
Don Tyson or Wayne Sandberg?
Don. I think it was Don. Anyway, and we talked about it. I mean, I see a lot of problems, you know, because of what do? You put a curb here and run it in to stop the water from running. That's a tough one. But I told him, I said, that's what we pay you the big bucks for, and he was okay with that. Good. But anyway, we're running out of time here. But I just want to mention a really good thing is that Lake Elmo swimming pool is going to open up pretty soon. Reopening August 1st. So please come on out and enjoy it. It's going to be thoroughly renovated. You know, we were losing lots of water because the lining was so old it was cracking. We've also made it safer for people. So you'll have a great time coming out. The whole thing was remodeled, wasn't it? I mean, and it needed it. Yes. How old was it? About 20? Oh, it was about 25 years, and so the whole bottom was kind of a plastic rubberized. It had just disintegrated over time. So. Okay. All right, is there anything you want to bring up? I think we covered everything because we're out of time. We covered a lot, but thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. It was a pleasure. You're very easy to interview. Oh, no problem. You. Good. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for having us. Okay. The Oakdale Area Chamber of Commerce recently held their annual family picnic and business appreciation lunch. Photographer Nicholas Anderson was there to capture some highlights. One of our meetings from being a business group to mixing the business group with the larger community. So we get about 1,000 people. We're hitting those puffy things, and then we're playing that, and then we're doing basketball. How fun is it? You guys having fun? Nice. It's open to all the residents, and it's really popular. It's been a grown bands and playing stuff for the kids, and kind of a picnic meal and a great tradition. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back with more of Oakdale Update in just a minute.
I'm Ron Hawkins.
And I'm Tracy Minarchuk. We're the hosts of Lake Area Beat. There's nothing like a cup of coffee to get the morning going.
Absolutely. We'll show you how coffee also got some important conversations started when surprise customers at a local McDonald's got more than what they bargained for.
Generous donations from several local businesses are keeping White Bear Lake residents safe. We'll have those details as well as highlights from the MS 150 bike ride with a biker's seat view.
We'll have these stories and much more. Check us out.
Welcome back to Oakdale Update. We just have a few minutes left, but before we go, here are a few helpful reminders. Oakdale City Hall serves as a collection site for retired flags. Flags are given to the American Legion in North St. Paul to be properly destroyed. A receptacle is provided in the lobby at 1584 Hadley Avenue. When watering lawns and gardens, please remember that Oakdale operates on a year-round, odd-even watering schedule. Next up, if you have a concern with a property in your neighborhood, use the form provided on the city's website, which is listed on the screen. And finally, I want to remind you about the Farmers Market, which takes place from 2 to 6 p.m. in the north parking lot at Oakdale City Hall, every Wednesday until October 26th. It's a great place to pick up a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, a bouquet of flowers, a loaf of bread, dessert, and more. For a list of vendors, go to oakdalefun.com. There will be a free family movie in the park on August 5th at dusk. The movie is Inside Out and will be shown at the Walton Park Bandshell. And finally, don't forget about upcoming election dates. The state primary election is on August 9th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. The general election is on November 8th and will include 2 Oakdale City Council seats. The filing period is August 2nd to the 16th. That's all we have time for this month on Oakdale Update. For everyone at the City of Oakdale, thanks for watching.